Good morning to everyone who's listening to us on this Saturday morning. And we promise that we will try and make it worth your while for sitting through these webinars, which is not every time easy. Actually, it's my privilege and honor to be part of this esteemed panel, particularly with Professor Jagatram sir here. And he was the first one to log in. So, I mean, so much to learn from you, sir. It never ends. And we will be having talks on mainly talking about current perspectives and the current paradigms in pediatric cataract management. And we hope to have at least a couple of questions after every talk. But my request to the speakers is that in case we are running ahead behind time, we might have to take the last 2 or 3 talk discussion at the end, but we will try to have some discussion after every talk. Now, I will be talking about, I think, something that is becoming controversial now and which is becoming important. When do you plan the surgery for every patient and what strategy should you take? And I have no financial interest here. We all know that pediatric cataracts present to us right from congenital to developmental, and they have different types of morphologies or different types of presentations. So depending on the density, depending on the age, other factors, and a lot, I think now we all realize after so many years of work by leaders like Professor Jagatram and my dad, we know that it's just not operating. You can do it even at 15 days of age, but that may not be the best thing for the child. So I think now what is very important is available experience and infrastructure in the system. And before I move ahead, good morning and welcome, Dr. Sumita ma'am. We are happy to have you with us.
Morning.
In unilateral cataracts, Dr. Plager and Dr. Birch, and they had done pioneering work way back, and they said that we should wait at least for 4 to 5 weeks. But I think there are newer approaches coming in, and most of the experts on the panel and outside would agree that even in a unilateral cataract, there is always a risk benefit of how much you can benefit the patient in terms of combating amblyopia versus what harm you can do by 2 things. One, a very early anesthesia early on in life, and any other technical complications. We all know now that glaucoma, for example, which is the most deadly complication, is seen more when you operate the child early on, and particularly when the child is operated below 3 months of age. There is ample evidence to show that glaucoma and other complications, technical complications, are much higher. So what we have done over the last few years is we try to wait for at least 6 to 8 weeks minimum, even in a unilateral cataract. Yes, we may be adding into some amblyopia, but then the eye is bigger, the body is more able to take the anesthesia, and we end up doing what we want surgically much more. So I think for us, the paradigm is shifting a little bit in terms of timing of surgery. We don't anymore take pride in saying that I operated a 1.5-week-old baby. We try and wait for at least 6 to 8 weeks for a unilateral cataract. For bilateral cataracts, particularly which are not complete and total, this window is extended to as much as 3 months sometimes. And between surgeries, this is also what we are changing recently. We try to wait for 3 to 4 weeks between surgeries because we do not realize 2 aspects. One is the effect the repeated anesthesia may be causing. And there is work that is showing neurotoxicity in the developmental neural system. So we want the drug to wash out completely from the system and have least effects. And also, I think it's a lot of parental and family stress to be putting these drops and medication 6 times, 8 times, multiple, going through the trauma of that operated eye. So in many ways, it does good to wait for 3 to 4 weeks between surgeries in a bilateral cataract. So that is, I think, something that is changing. This is one of the latest articles. There are many which have come, but this, I think, was the latest that is published. And it also talks about bilateral cataract surgery. It's a review and says that if you operate around 6 months versus at 3 months of age, you might actually be doing more good to the child. So moving on, after the timing, I think the next thing is what are the strategy? Most important would be preoperative, operative, and postoperative. Now, for me, preoperatively, counseling becomes one of the most challenging and rewarding, both, because that will help you pave the way for everything that we do. Obviously, when to operate, safety of anesthesia and all that is paradigm. Examination under anesthesia cannot be skipped or missed. Even if you do it on the same day of surgery, that has to be a separate part of the surgical protocol. And what we do at our center is, after the EUA is done and before the surgery started, the surgeon himself or herself steps out and talks to the patients that this is what we saw. Although we knew grossly this is what it was, but this is what we finally have measured and seen. And this is our plan ABC, and this is what we should expect. So I think even if you cannot do a separate EUA, which may not be possible, especially in these COVID times when you don't want to have the patient back and forth and too many anesthesias, I think we do need to take it as a separate entity for the staff, for the clinic, everybody. And now with low flow systems, closed circuit systems, the use of safer gases like sevoflurane, and for EUAs, laryngeal mask anesthesias, these are becoming more and more safe. But yes, also involving your pediatrician and your ICU colleagues, particularly when the child is an infant, is of paramount importance in your surgical strategy. So always have a good friendly tie-up with somebody who has an ambulance, who can come and take the child with an intubation if needed. Now, what do we do under anesthesia? Handheld keratometry when the child is not cooperative. If the child is cooperative, now we also take help of these modern diagnostics like Pentacam, iTrace, topography, keratometry. But this typically we see is only for children 5 or 6 years and above. IOL has to be calculated. Ideally, you should have access to at least a contactor in immersion biometry and a handheld keratometry. If not, there are beautiful references which will tell you normative data, but I mean, that should not be a point of contention of operating or not operating. When you do an EUA, now I think we need to move on. I mean, just doing a keratometry, biometry may not be enough. Gonioscopy, if you have access, B-scan, UBM, these are all very, very important in understanding and helping us evolve as surgeons and doing much better for our patients. IOL power calculation, well, it's anybody's guess. And we do target some hypermetropia depending on the age. And we did some studies based on which for an SRKT or the Holiday 2 is our choice for all eyes, all pediatric eyes. But if we can get an optical biometry, that means a Lenstar or an IOL Master or a TOMI, then Barrett Universal 2 is becoming a go-to formula even for older children now. What I have learned a lot from so many presentations I've attended in CMEs is documentation. Buy your own SLR. It doesn't have to be a Sony 3 chip or an expensive camera. Buy your own SLR from your savings and just attach it to your microscope and take pictures and videos and make folders for each patient so that you know what is happening. It's good to operate, but it's good to know what you are ending up with. Yes, when you do frequent EUAs, the complications are a problem. And therefore, we now do EUAs at least twice a year, 2 to 3 times a year in the first year of follow-up. And until 5 years or until the child is cooperative enough, we keep doing EUAs at least once in 6 months, unless it is indicated earlier. And obviously, these are all done quick, safe anesthesias. What systemic tests, including genetic evaluation? Well, in microphthalmos and other comorbid conditions, there is a battery of tests to be done. Even systemically, would you evaluate? For us, I think doing a torch and basic investigations, including a 2D echocardiography for GA purpose mainly, when the child is below 1 or 2 years of age. But apart from a good fitness, that should not be sort of a point of contention. Do we have 2 minutes more, Dr. Jeena?
You can take mine.
Yeah, no, I don't need. I'm just asking. So, in terms of surgical strategy, Dr. Jagatram sir is going to be talking more about that. But my only point I want to make here, and which is more of a request and discussion with all of you for junior surgeons like me, I have a plan A. Yes, I'll do a posterior capsular axis optic capture, this, that. If it does not, what do? I will do a vitrectomy and leave the child aphakic. But my whole thing is better safe than sorry. There is no ego in implanting an IOL doing, I need to do a glued IOL, I need to do a Yamane. This is not the thing to do in children, particularly for those of us who are, very brave heart surgeons in adults. This is a very different ball game, and please treat it differently. And that's, I think, my request. And with that, I would end my talk. Thank you.
I think the timing buzzer is for 8 minutes. So as in this talk in program, you have kept 10 minutes.
Okay.
Can I request a lady to keep this buzzer at 10 minutes and not at 8 minutes?
And in terms of the approach, I think the cornerstone is managing the posterior capsule and the vitreous along with the lens. So depending on your comfort and what you are used to or experienced with, vitrectomy, lensectomy is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong. Doing a manual anterior and posterior capsular excision, if you can do in the bag or an optic capture of IOL, would be ideal. But again here, only one thing I would say is that if you cannot do an in the bag IOL of any sort, either a primary in the bag with vitrectomy or a optic capture, it is no point having an ego issue and putting that lens, squeezing it through the sulcus, or trying to do. Any child below 4 or 5 years, I will not even do a scleral fixated or a what do you say, glued IOL or a Yamane IOL. Better to leave the child aphakic and then do a secondary depending on how these eyes grow and how they are going to behave in terms of inflammation. Because we have learned, and Dr. Steve Charles, I've heard him in 1 or 2 courses. He's a big proponent, and I totally agree that whenever you manipulate the uveal tissue, either surgically or in the long run indirectly, you will not be able to tackle the consequences that will happen in these young eyes. So that is something I would go with. And with that, I think my 10 minutes are up, and we can take a couple of questions or comments from the experts.
I think this is an excellent presentation, and you have very rightly said that how early we can operate these children, particularly infant, when the particularly infant should be operated. And how we have to examine the child under anesthesia after dilatation. That is what we also follow the same thing. So that is, I think, one of the issue for among the surgical tip for success. These are part and parcel of that. So my part will be covered by. So this is nice, very nice present.
I think it's important for all of us in the community of our colleagues to understand that if you do not have a good team of a good anesthesia, good infrastructure, and rehabilitation and all that, we better not touch these eyes, particularly the very young children, for ego issue, and send it, co-manage with the people who are managing and experts in pediatric cataract management. So send it to PGI, send it to any centers near to you. But if you do not have the right support of the medical people and the infrastructure, I think you should not take the children for cataract surgery who is less than 2 years of age or so on, because you may do more harm rather than the help. Yeah.
I think you make a very good point on gonioscopy, because that is something which is very, very important. All your good work of doing a surgery can be very quickly undone if the glaucoma develops. So I think a lot of these children do have abnormal angles, and sometimes with the goniotomy and all, you can combine it with cataract surgery and make your life really easy, especially in very, very dysgenetic angles. So gonioscopy has been, apart from everything what you mentioned, gonioscopy has been part of our pre-surgery